Yes, there was some legislative progress in the Senate. The climate bill, or the Inflation Reduction Act, was passed by a vote of 51 to 50, Kamala Harris breaking that tie vote. We're talking about $369 billion of investments in clean energy, with the aim of reducing carbon emissions by 40% by the year 2030, not where Biden wanted it to be, which was 50% by 2030. What is in this? We've got tax credits aimed at steering consumers to EVs, prodding electrical utilities, I kind of like this word, toward renewable energy sources like wind or power, $60 billion to help people most impacted by climate change, some penalties over like corporations when they leak methane into the atmosphere, an undoing of a moratorium on offshore wind farms that Trump put in place. Part of the way this is going to be paid for is by a 15% corporate tax for any corporation earning over $1 billion. There's going to be more money for IRS enforcement for like a lot of the, honestly, tax evaders who are making millions and millions of dollars, and which is great because they're going after people like us generally. Also, in my little realm of the world, extending the subsidies on the ACA, which is honestly helping me out, save a few $100s a month, because I do buy healthcare on the marketplace, as it were. But there's a lot of bad shit, guys. There's a lot of trade-offs. There's what they're calling a Faustian bargain. So the measure would also assure new oil drilling leases in the Gulf of Mexico and Alaska's Cook Inlet. It expands tax credits for carbon capture technology, which is utter bullshit, that could allow coal or gas burning power plants to keep operating with lower emissions. And it would mandate that the Interior Department continue to hold auctions for fossil fuel leases if it plans to approve new wind or solar projects on federal lands. So it's this sort of like, well, I want it to, it's a little bit like all energies mattering, you know, like if the, it's like, if for every BLM march we gave like a white person, you know, like a free meal to like make themselves feel better, that's what's happening in our climate. It's like, yes, there's going to be some more investment in wind and solar, but like the fossil fuel industry also gets a bunch of new leases and handouts as well. So a couple things, you know, I really love the writer who's been on this show, Kate Aronoff, who writes for the New Republic and writes generally about climate change. She had some pretty good takeaways, which was saying, look, the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, not the Irish Republican Army, for anyone confused, and the climate policy it contains wouldn't have passed the Senate on Sunday without an enormous amount of work put in by people who feel most ambivalent about the devil's bargain struck to get it. The environmentalists and other organizers who made this bill possible are painfully aware of the awful policies it contains, including a big new giveaway of public lands over to drilling and a prospective overhaul of the laws that govern where and how fossil fuel infrastructure gets built. But multiple things can be true at the same time. The Inflation Reduction Act, the first piece of climate change to pass the Senate ever, is historic and vitally important, given that Democrats may not get to govern again for a decade. Holy shit. It also consigns more people to living next to more fossil fuel infrastructure for longer. I think she had one final thought, but it was essentially like, look, there's good, there's bad, but most people are saying overall it was at least a win. Jessica, you care about the future of the planet and, you know, not dying in a flood or a fire or a hurricane. What do you make of this? Did this give you some amount of hope, a little bit of faith in the Democrats, even though there's some of this, you know, these poison pills in there?
Gosh, I have to say, I feel like my insecurity today is I feel like kind of an asshole, just in the sense of like, so I follow some people on TikTok that you probably know of who are like, the Democrats are doing this, we're gonna get it passed, and like people are putting so much work in.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm dead, dude. Like just reading this bill is just like I'm like obviously like when Trump was president, okay, I was like devastated by all the environmental shit he was slashing, and
Yeah.
it just felt like an active burning down. So do I like this more? Yes, I would say that my state of trauma has reduced. Definitely. I'm not one of these people that I'm like it's all the same thing. But like, dude, it is just like it's good that we got anything passed ever,
Yep.
right? Like, oh, thank you. Here's my crumbs.
Hmm.
It's just like
Put a
my
little bib on for it, like a somebody
yeah, it
cut it
just
in half.
here you go, you little peasant. And it's just like it's so sad, dude. And I am really grateful for all the people that like work so hard to work with what we've got, because I don't think that we're going to overthrow this government. Like there's just too many, like I don't see
In the meantime.
I don't see the radical possibility. I just don't. I'm
Yeah.
looking for it, but it's not there. So I feel like I do have to get into this place. Like I just like I see you as someone I look to as someone who's like, I'm in it. I'm working really hard and like staying alert. And I know we're gonna talk about like right wing comedians later and like looking out for them. And I'm like in this place of like, I'm shutting it out, dude. I'm
Yeah.
like so close to just being like, come in with the milk, come in with the milk, come like full on Howard Hughes situation over here. But the thing is, I don't think I'm alone. Like
No.
I think that so many people are struggling so hard to not just be fully disassociated, fully disheartened.
Yeah.
Like,
If you're not already sort of like strapped with, the daily like job grind, family grind,
right.
making ends meet grind, the meat grind, you even the minimal amount of that people are able to pay attention. I think your desire to have something more fun happen is like kind of right on. Like I'm not just saying that. I do think it's real. Most people have a capacity, like they tap out when there's too much information. And especially when you're like, I think things like this where you want to claim a win, I think people should claim this as a win. That
Mhm.
being said, yeah, Kirsten Cinema did get a major carve out for private equity firms, which are just like evil conglomerates taking over our lives and trying to sell us all for parts. Um,
Mhm.
there's bad things in this bill. I was certainly not on the front lines of working on it, and I was not or anywhere near it. So I do have to say, I echo what Kate said in terms of hats off to the people who
Yeah.
did work hard for this. But in some senses, it's the most Biden-esque bill ever, meaning it's so not enough. We have a lot more to do. And it keeps, like, people are still hungry for more, which I think can be a good place to be in. Still maintaining some control. We have to fucking maintain control of the Senate and the House, which may not happen. But it's also like, um, give people a reason to continue fighting, and like the mealy mouth nature of this bill I think does that, because it's like there's so much more for improvement. I mean, I don't know, I guess my cynical take is I also feel like no one's factoring in the amount of money it'll cost. Like nobody factors in like, well, how much money does the sky cost to pollute in the time that you allow drilling in the Alaskan, whatever, the inlet, or like you allow a new pipeline. Like, is there a price put on any of like the water you're, putting toxic chemicals into, or the streams that you're running dry? Like, no, there's not. No monetary value has been added. So while it's like, ooh, this is going to be great for the wind and, alternative energy, like it's really going to boost a lot of like investment. Number one, I have a lot of doubts that the fossil fuel industry will even allow green energy to be as competitive with because they'll just fucking lower the prices when they want. So they'll be like, oh no, fuck that shit. Ours is cheaper. So you can't just rely on market logic to get us to where we need to be. That's number one. And number two, I doubt that all of those factors, again, of the cost of actually contaminating our environment, have been fully factored into the cost benefit of this. But I'm willing to be proven wrong. I may
Yeah.
see everyone on the Titanic escape boat, though. Hopefully we'll
Yes.
make it on.
Same.
I have a
Well, you
child, you
do have a
guys.
child.
I
You have
can
a
say I have a child.
you do have a child, so you're good.
Jessica, you can dress like my child.
Yeah, I just like really have been realizing that even I downplay or underestimate how insane so many of the people like making these decisions are, and how
How
fully
craven.
oh yeah, it's just like so off, like so like I do think like Biden is a person that okay, he wanted a better bill than this even. But it's just like the fact that we have to push through hard and then oh, there's this one guy that like doesn't like this, and it's like we're holding up the whole planet's future for like some jobs in Virginia, and
Odd
it's
job.
a job. One guy working in one mine.
Yep, yep. Last guy mining the last piece of coal. It's a children's book, really.
So I feel mostly frustrated. Frustrated in so many ways, as we've already talked about in this podcast. But I do, it's like you do need to process that and work through it and get back to the hope situation and be like, okay, what's the next move? And I
Totally.
think I'm in a place where I'm like, I wish I was more excited about this. I wish I had a next move.
There you go. Mic drop. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.